Hey guys, welcome back. Hope everyone's doing well. Sorry we missed our time together yesterday, but yeah, it was a weird day. Anyway, our word for the day is going to be average. So it's not a homophone. There's no weird things about it. Nothing crazy. It just came to me because I've been thinking lately a lot about balance and about the midpoint of things, right? So those of you that have been on the channel and who watch my tarot channel know that my mantra as of late has been, it's not good, it's not bad, it just is, right? So that being said, I started thinking about, like the midpoint of the two extremes, which would essentially be the average. And so I looked the word up because that's what we do, right? We look words up. And the average definition is a single value, such as a mean, and I actually did think about using that word instead, because that could, in theory, be the homophone, but I digress. A single value, such as a mean, mode, or median, that summarizes or represents the general significance of a set of unequal values. So really, not entirely what I was thinking. I guess what I was thinking was more like, I guess would be like the midpoint, so the median, right? But we're going to keep going with average because that's what I kind of decided on, and that's where we're going to go. The second definition is an estimation of or approximation to an arithmetic mean. So, for example, it's not necessarily the exact, right? It's just the estimate. So if you had, like, I don't know, 4 numbers and you kind of guesstimated in your head, that could be an average. A level as of intelligence typical of a group, class, or series. So I guess you could say like above intelligence, right? Above average intelligence. And then on average would mean taking the typical example of the group under consideration. And the example that they use, prices have increased on average by 5%. The average increase has been 5%. Now, if we look at this as an adjective, equaling an arithmetic mean. Being about midway between two extremes. Okay, so that's really what I want to kind of focus on. Not out of the ordinary, common. Okay. So let's focus in on the being about midway between two extremes. Okay. So the average, how do I want to put this? Okay, so let's take grades in school, right? You can get an A, B, C, D, or an F, right? So A, B, C, D, F. So A, B, C. So C would be the average, right? Because there's 2 on this side, 2 on this side. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, it's the midpoint. So C is average. And I think it's funny that it is C, because if you think of C as the letter or C as an SEA, but that'll be a different video. Anyway, the point being, it would be the midpoint between two extremes, right? So if we consider it from a good, bad scenario, the average of good and bad would be basically like negating both of them, right? It would be, it's not good, it's not bad, it just is. So is in fact the average. So yeah, we're like 5 minutes in and I really still haven't even kind of made sense of what I'm doing here yet. So I'm going to go ahead and get to the point. I want to break this word down into the smaller words within it. Okay. So AVE, RAGE. So AVE, when I was thinking about this word earlier today, I could see rage in it, right? Obviously. But I wasn't sure about AVE. And I thought the first thing that came to mind was Ave Maria. I'm like, so it must be a word, I would think. So I looked it up, and Ave is an expression of greeting or of leaving. And their examples that they use are hail and farewell. And then often capitalized, they say Ave Maria. It's also the definition of an avenue. And then the first known use would be at sense one. Oh, go back. Which is the expression of greeting or of leave taking. I said leaving, but it wasn't leaving. It's leave taking. So like a farewell. Farewell, a wish of well-being at parting. An act of departure. Okay. So it's an expression, right? It is it's a positive expression from what I gather. Hail. I don't know. I'm going to look that one up. An act, process, or instance of representing in a medium such as words, utterance. Something that manifests, embodies, or symbolizes something else. A significant word or phrase, a mathematical or logical symbol, or a meaningful combination of symbols, the detectable effect of a gene. Okay. So we're going to go with a wish of well-being. Because that's, I think that's more or less what they mean when they say Ave Maria. Like, farewell. God be with you, I guess would be a good way to say it, with Ave. And the second word in average would be rage. And that word means violent or uncontrolled anger, a fit of violent wrath, insanity. And that is the archaic. Let's look at what the 14th century defined at sense 1A, which would be violent and uncontrolled anger. So here we go. If you think about balance from a standpoint of not good, not bad, just is, or using a balance of your feminine and masculine energy. So feminine energy being that which is non-action and just nurturing an idea, and the masculine energy side of the action of an idea, right? So you have this brainstorming session, where you're creative, you're coming up with ideas of what you want to do, and then you have the other side, which is the actual action of it. Finding the average of those two, maybe you do an hour of planning and an hour of action, or you do 2 hours today of action, of planning rather, and then 2 hours tomorrow of action. So you found a balance. You found the average of the two. It's not all creative. It's not all action. It is the average. And if you think of average as bidding a fond farewell to a violent and uncontrolled anger, from a subconscious level, I can now look at average as not beating myself up for being too creative and too action oriented, right? Because if I can find that average midpoint, if I can do a little bit of both, I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm not going to get mad at myself. I'm not going to be enraged, or I'm not going to feel lazy, or I'm not going to feel like I'm neglecting my self-care, right? We get to rage when we are too far, too extreme in one or the other. We're either too nurturing or too action oriented, right? It is that intense feeling, that passion, okay, which is another definition of rage. I tend to think it's more of a negative, intense emotion. The violent and uncontrolled anger. I'm actually curious what anger actually technically is, even though I know what it is. But so strong feeling of displeasure and usually of antagonism. And then antagonism, okay, a threatening or violent appearance or state. Rage, sense 2. Which brings us back to violent action, a fit of violent wrath. But it is also defined as insanity. And the first thing I think of when I think of insanity is insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So if you think about it from that perspective, when you do the same thing day to day, and at the end of the day, you're not thrilled with what you did, you're kind of not necessarily rage, but you're displeased with yourself. Then you get up the next day and you do the same thing again, and then you're displeased with yourself again. Like, one would call that insane, right? If you could find the average, if you want to say goodbye to that displeasure, if you want to say goodbye to that anger, if you want to say goodbye to that passionately beating yourself up, first of all, you say goodbye with love, right? Because that's what Ave would be. It would be a fond farewell. So the first thing would be to forgive yourself for not being average, right? And the second thing would be to make the change, right? To try to find the balance of the situation that's not being met right now. So to bring this all back, average is not what most people, at least in my experience, aspire to be, right? Everybody wants to be the best. And I just started thinking about that movie, Ricky Bobby, Talladega Nights. If you ain't first, you're last, right? That movie made me laugh. I'm sorry. At any rate, nobody aspires to be average. And I think that subconsciously, because of that, we are taught, you got to be the best, you got to be the best, you got to be the best. We've literally been conditioned that average is bad. If you ain't first, you're last, right? Which, if average is something that is bad, then bidding a fond farewell to your rage, to your displeasure, is looked down upon, right? It is not something that you should be aspiring to do. And I think that it's been misrepresented as something that is negative, okay? For example, there's people that, they start a business or whatever, and they want to be in Fortune 500 right away, right? They want to start it perfect, right? Nobody wants to be average. But I wonder if that was what our goal was to just be balanced, to just make enough money to survive. You don't have to be in a mansion. You don't have to drive a Lamborghini. But you don't want to be poor either. You want to be comfortable. You want to be able to go buy what you want to buy, have a nice house, and not worry about where your next, how you're going to pay the bill that comes in tomorrow. That to me is average, right? And I think maybe there's more and more people in the world today that actually do aspire to be average. And maybe that comes from a mindset of balance, right? But for me anyway, I'm going to start looking at average as less of a mainstream what is the word I want to say? Less of a lack of success. I don't know the best way to say that. But I think, at least for me in my generation, if you aren't, super successful, if you don't have the biggest, best, if you are not on that high end extreme of success, then you are by default not successful. And I challenge myself and you to do away with that idea. Okay. If everybody aspired to be average, then we would be more apt to help each other succeed. There would be less competition. There would be more camaraderie. There would be more community. There would be more acceptance and allowance of other people and other businesses to go around. I don't think in today's day and age that the dog eat dog world is where the future of this world is going. I myself am trying to reprogram my subconscious to think of average as literally the thing to attain, right? That will be my end all be all success, is to be that perfect midpoint of not good, not bad, just is. To be that perfect wave goodbye to rage, wave goodbye to the extremes, right? If you think about like a coin, right? There's a heads and there's a tails. And average to me would be being able to balance that quarter or that coin on its side. And that's not an average accomplishment, but it is the best metaphor I can think of off the top of my head at 9:00 at night, to give you a visual depiction of what I think average means. Yeah, I don't know. There's probably more to talk about with average, and I probably could have presented this better, but it is what it is. And like I always say, I don't want to give you the answer. I don't want to give you a new way to define average. What I want to do is to make you think, and to make you maybe look at the word a little bit differently. And if now that you know Ave means bid farewell and rage means displeasure, when you hear average, maybe you could break it up and hear do away with rage, and it, at the very least, makes you stop and think that average isn't such a bad thing. It's actually something that sounds pretty good in my eyes. I'm all for giving up the rage. But I don't know. Tell me what you guys think. Put it in the comments below. Not one of my better videos, but I'm going to forgive myself for that because it is late, and I got started late, and I was actually involved in a very different conversation before I put this video on, so I probably wasn't quite as prepared as I could have been. But that's okay. That's okay, because you know what? I can definitely say it's an average video. Oh my goodness. And if nothing else, guys, if I have done nothing else tonight, then I have given you something to laugh at. Okay? Because I have no problem being the focus of that humor. And I have made you think. And I've sparked a thought, which sparks a thought, which sparks a thought, which creates change in the world. And that's my only goal here, is to just make you guys think for yourselves. You don't have to go and Google the answers for everything. The answers are right there in front of you. They're within you, and you already know them. You just have to be willing to see them. And your answers aren't going to be the same as my answers, and that's okay. In fact, it's preferred. Because who wants to be a bunch of robots running around? That would be artificial intelligence at its finest, right? Anyway, guys, think about it. Think about what average means to you. And the next time you hear the word, if I've done nothing else, I've made you aware that average is not just an average word anymore. All right. So I'm going to leave it there. You guys let me know what you think below. And then also, too, if you guys have suggestions for words that you want me to tackle, definitely send them in. I think I'm going to take tomorrow's video, and instead of just a word, I'm going to do an idiom. And I think the idiom I don't know what idiom I'm going to do, but I did make a point today with a friend of mine that idiom is only one letter off from idiot. And that made me laugh. And again, if it makes you laugh, guys, then who cares? Who cares if it's true or false? Who cares if it's dumb, or who cares if it's unintelligent? Who cares if it's average? It's funny and it made you laugh, and that's that's never a bad thing. So, guys, have a good night, and we will chat soon. And don't forget, grow your words and taste your language. Bye for now.